They say karma is real, that the universe has a way of balancing the scales. I never believed it, not after losing my husband, not after watching my son struggle in a world that refused to understand him. But on the night of March 15th, in the glittering 47th floor penthouse of Hexagon Technologies, I watched karma move with a precision that still takes my breath away. My name is Diane Huang. I'm a janitor. And this is the story of how my 9-year-old autistic son brought a billionaire CEO to his knees and saved his empire in the process. But before I tell you about the miracle, I have to tell you about the mockery. Please take a moment to hit that subscribe button, like the video, and let me know in the comments where you're watching from. Your heartfelt support means a whole lot to me. Now, back to the story. Saturday nights at Hexagon Technologies were supposed to be quiet. The executive floors emptied out by 6 p.m., leaving just me and my cleaning cart moving through glass-walled offices like a ghost no one noticed. I preferred it that way. But tonight was different. Tonight, the 47th floor blazed with light and laughter. Damian Cole's 42nd birthday party. The invitations had gone out weeks ago. Embossed cards, champagne towers, a guest list that read like a Forbes 400 directory. I wasn't invited, of course. I was scheduled to clean the lower floors while the celebration raged above. But Marcus had other plans. "Mama, can I come with you tonight?" My son stood in our tiny apartment's doorway, his blue, noise-canceling headphones already on, his backpack stuffed with his tablet, and the worn copy of Introduction to Computer Networks he'd read 17 times. I should have said no. Should have called Mrs. Patterson next door to watch him like I usually did. But Marcus had been so withdrawn lately, so quiet even for him. And the way he looked at me, those dark eyes so much like his father's, I couldn't refuse. "Just stay in the break room, okay? Don't wander off." He nodded, solemn as always. Marcus didn't break promises. He didn't understand how to lie. That was the first mistake I made that night. The second was believing that people like Damian Cole could see past their own reflections. We arrived at 8 p.m. The elevator ride to the 30th floor felt longer than usual, Marcus's hand tight in mine. He was stimming, his fingers tapping a complex rhythm against his thigh. 4 beats, pause, 3 beats, pause, repeat. It meant he was nervous. "You okay, baby?" He nodded but didn't look at me. His eyes were fixed on the elevator's control panel, tracking the floor numbers with that intensity that meant his brain was processing, cataloging, organizing information in whatever beautiful way it worked. I'd learned to stop apologizing for Marcus's autism years ago. Stop trying to make him fit into a world that demanded eye contact and small talk and social performances he couldn't give. But I'd never stop protecting him. The break room on 30 was supposed to be our safe zone. I set him up at the table with his tablet, a juice box, and the turkey sandwich I'd packed. "I'll be back in 2 hours. You need me, you text me, okay?" He was already absorbed in his tablet, fingers flying across the screen, probably deep in some coding tutorial or network diagram. At 9 years old, Marcus understood computer systems better than most adults. His therapist called it hyperfocus. I called it his superpower. I kissed the top of his head. He tolerated it because it was me, and grabbed my cart. The 30th through 40th floors took me 90 minutes. Empty offices, conference rooms still smelling of coffee and ambition, bathrooms that only needed light cleaning. I worked methodically, my mind half present, already planning how I'd get Marcus home and into bed before midnight. I should have checked on him at the 90-minute mark. I should have known that Marcus's curiosity was a force that no locked door could contain. By the time I realized he was gone, he was already 47 floors up, wandering into a party where he would become the most important person in the room. He just didn't know it yet. Neither did Damian Cole. I found the break room empty at 9:47 p.m. His tablet was still on the table, screen dark. His backpack was there. His headphones, his precious blue headphones that cost me 3 months of saving, were gone. That's when the panic hit. Marcus didn't wander. He wasn't like other kids who explored for fun. When Marcus moved, it was purposeful, driven by something his brain needed to understand or process. I called his phone. Straight to voicemail. I texted. Nothing. I should have called security. Should have reported it immediately. But I knew what that meant. Questions, attention, possibly losing this job I desperately needed. Single mother, can't control her kid, liability risk. So I made the third mistake of the night. I went looking for him myself. The elevator directory showed the 47th floor active, party in progress. My badge wouldn't take me past 45, but the stairwell would. The stairwell always worked. I climbed those stairs faster than I'd ever moved, my heart hammering against my ribs, my mind conjuring every terrible scenario. Marcus lost, Marcus scared, Marcus having a meltdown in front of people who wouldn't understand. The 47th floor was a wall of sound when I opened the stairwell door. Music, laughter, the clink of glasses. I could see into the main reception area through the glass walls. Beautiful people in expensive clothes, servers with trays of champagne, a champagne tower that probably cost more than my car. And there, standing in the middle of the hallway just outside the party's entrance, staring up at a massive digital display showing the company's network infrastructure, was my son. He was tracing the lines on the screen with his eyes, his fingers moving in the air like he was conducting an orchestra only he could hear. To anyone watching, he probably looked strange, lost, out of place in his worn jeans and faded Iron Man t-shirt. To me, he looked like Marcus being Marcus, seeing patterns no one else could see. I was about to call out to him when the voice cut through the hallway like a knife. "Hey, kid, what the hell are you doing up here?" Damian Cole stepped out of the party, a crystal tumbler in his hand, his face already flushed with alcohol and irritation. He was tall, imposing in his custom suit, the kind of man who commanded attention just by existing. Marcus didn't turn around, didn't acknowledge him. His eyes stayed fixed on the network display. That's when I started running. But I was too far away, too late. What happened next would haunt me for hours. And then vindicate me in ways I never imagined possible. Damian Cole wasn't used to being ignored. "I'm talking to you." His voice got louder, sharper. "Turn around when someone's speaking to you." Marcus flinched, just slightly. His hands went to his headphones, pressing them tighter against his ears. It was his tell. The world was getting too loud, too overwhelming. I was 20 feet away now, my voice caught in my throat, my body moving but not fast enough. Damian stepped closer. "Are you deaf or just stupid? Who let you up here?" That's when Marcus turned. Not because he wanted to engage, but because the sensory input, the voice, the smell of expensive cologne, the intrusion into his focus, became too much. He looked at Damian. Not in the eyes, never in the eyes, but at his chest, his hands, the way his father had taught him before he died. "The network has a vulnerability," Marcus said. His voice was quiet, flat, the way it always sounded when he was processing complex information. "In the firewall architecture, layer 3, the redundancy protocol isn't redundant." Silence. Then Damian laughed. Not a chuckle, but a full, mocking laugh that echoed down the hallway and drew attention from inside the party. "Oh, this is rich. We've got a little genius here." He turned back toward the party, raising his voice. Jessica, come here. You have to see this." A woman in a red dress emerged, Jessica Kim, the HR director I'd seen in the elevators but never spoken to. She had that permanently pleasant expression that people in HR cultivated, the smile that never quite reached the eyes. "What is it, Damian?" "This kid," he gestured at Marcus like he was an exhibit, "apparently thinks he knows more about our network than our entire IT security team. Tell her what you said, kid, about the firewall." Marcus was rocking now. Subtle, but I could see it, back and forth on his heels. His hands were stimming faster. He was approaching overload. I finally found my voice. "Marcus!" They all turned. Damian's eyes landed on me, taking in my janitor's uniform, the ID badge clipped to my collar, the cart I'd abandoned in the hallway. Understanding dawned on his face. Then something worse than anger. Contempt. "Is this your kid?" I reached Marcus, putting myself between him and Damian. My hand found Marcus's shoulder, gentle, grounding. "Yes, I'm so sorry, Mr. Cole. He didn't mean to disturb." "Didn't mean to disturb?" Damian's voice dripped with sarcasm. "Your son just wandered into a private event and started spouting nonsense about our security infrastructure. Is he—" He paused, tilting his head. "Special needs or something?" The way he said it, like it was a diagnosis, like it was a joke. "My son is autistic," I said quietly. "He was supposed to stay in the break room. I take full responsibility. We'll leave immediately." Autistic. Damian repeated the word like he was tasting something unpleasant. By now, a small crowd had gathered from the party, guests in designer clothes, holding champagne flutes, watching our humiliation like it was entertainment. Jessica touched Damian's arm. Damian, maybe we should just... He shook her off. The alcohol was making him bold, mean, performative. No. I want to understand this. Your autistic son... He looked directly at Marcus now. Thinks he found a vulnerability in a security system that cost us $40 million to develop. Is that right? Marcus was melting down. I could feel it building. His breathing was getting faster, his rocking more pronounced. Please, I said. We're leaving. I apologize for any... Does he even understand what a firewall is? Damian's voice got louder. He was playing to the crowd now, and they were eating it up. Nervous laughter rippled through the group. Does he know the difference between a network and Nintendo? Stop. My voice came out harder than I intended. Damian's eyebrows raised. Excuse me? I said stop. I pulled Marcus closer. He was trembling now. Whatever point you're trying to make, you've made it. We're leaving. The point? Damian stepped closer, invading my space. Is that I run a billion-dollar cybersecurity company. We have 63 PhDs on staff, Nobel Prize winners, MIT graduates, and your kid, who can barely look me in the eye, thinks he knows better. It's insulting, it's absurd, and frankly, he looked at Marcus with naked disgust. People like him shouldn't be wandering around spaces like this. It's a liability. He could be dangerous. The word hit me like a fist. Dangerous. My beautiful, gentle boy who cried when he accidentally stepped on an ant, who gave half his lunch to a kid at school who forgot theirs, who saw the world in patterns and beauty that most people were too blind to appreciate. Dangerous. You need to leave, Damian said flatly. Now, before I call security. And I'll be speaking to facilities management about... He looked me up and down. Appropriate workplace protocols. Can't have the cleaning staff bringing their kids to work. It's unprofessional. Jessica had the decency to look uncomfortable. A few guests did too. But no one said anything. No one stood up. That's what money does. It silences empathy. I should have yelled, should have defended Marcus, told Damian exactly what I thought of him. But I was tired, so tired of fighting a world that saw my son as a problem instead of a person. So I did what I always did. I protected Marcus. Come on, baby, I whispered, guiding him toward the elevator. Let's go home. Marcus followed, silent now, shut down. His hands were pressed against his headphones so hard I worried they'd break. Behind us, I heard Damian's voice, loud and jovial, already back to entertaining his guests. Sorry about that, everyone. You try to run a tight ship, and then... Laughter. More drinks poured, the moment already forgotten. For them, for us, it was everything. We rode the elevator down in silence. Marcus didn't cry. He rarely did. But his eyes were distant, unfocused, and I knew he was somewhere inside himself where the world couldn't hurt him. I cried enough for both of us. By the time we reached the parking garage, I decided. First thing Monday, I'd start looking for another job. I couldn't work in a place that treated my son like he was less than human. I buckled Marcus into the passenger seat, kissed his forehead. I'm sorry, baby. I'm so sorry. He looked at me then, really looked at me, and said something that I wouldn't understand until much later. The pattern was wrong, Mama. Someone's going to get hurt. I thought he was talking about his feelings, about the emotional hurt of what just happened. I was wrong. Marcus was talking about the network vulnerability he'd spotted, the one Damian had mocked him for mentioning, the one that was, at that very moment, being exploited by a hacker halfway around the world. By the time I pulled out of the parking garage, Hexagon Technologies had 6 hours before complete systemic collapse. And the only person who understood what was happening was the 9-year-old boy they'd just called dangerous. I wish I could tell you that we drove home, that Marcus fell asleep in his bed, that life moved on. But at 11:47 p.m., my phone rang. It was a number I didn't recognize, a panicked voice I'd never heard before, and the words that changed everything. We need your son. The company is dying, and he's the only one who can save it. I almost didn't answer. It was 11:47 p.m. Marcus was finally calm, curled up in his bed, his headphones still on, his breathing finally even. I was in our tiny kitchen, microwaving tea I wouldn't drink, my mind replaying the humiliation on an endless loop. When my phone rang with an unknown number, my first thought was spam. My second was terror, the kind only single mothers know, the fear that something has happened to your child even when they're 20 feet away. I answered on the fourth ring. Hello? Is this Diane Huang? A man's voice, stressed, exhausted, unfamiliar. Who is this? My name is Raj Patel. I'm the head of IT security at Hexagon Technologies. He paused, and I heard shouting in the background, chaos. I need to talk to your son. The words didn't compute. Excuse me? Your son, Marcus, the boy who was here tonight. He said something about the network, about a vulnerability in layer 3 of our firewall architecture. I need to know exactly what he saw. I was already shaking my head, even though he couldn't see me. I don't understand. What's going on? We're under attack, his voice cracked. A sophisticated zero-day exploit that bypassed every defense we have. We've been compromised for the past 6 hours. Client data, proprietary systems, everything. I heard him talking to someone else, muffled, then back to me. We have less than 6 hours before the attackers lock us out completely, before they own everything. My mouth went dry. I still don't understand what this has to do with Marcus. The vulnerability your son mentioned, the one Mr. Cole dismissed. He was right. Raj's voice was desperate now. The attackers got in through exactly the weakness he identified. The redundancy protocol that wasn't redundant. I've been staring at this code for 3 hours, and I can't figure out how they're routing through it, but your son, he saw it. In seconds. He understood something we missed. He's 9 years old. I don't care if he's 9 or 90. We need him. Raj paused. Please. Hexagon Technologies has 60,000 employees, hundreds of thousands of clients trusting us with their data. If we go down, people lose their jobs, their savings, their security. I'm begging you. I looked toward Marcus's bedroom door. He was finally at peace, finally safe from a world that had hurt him, and this man wanted me to throw him back into it. The CEO, I said coldly. The man who called my son dangerous. Is he there? Silence. Then, yes. And he knows you're calling me? Yes. Raj's voice got quieter. Look, I don't know what happened tonight. I was in the server room during the party. But I know we're desperate, and I know your son might be the only person who can help us. Might? He saw something none of us did. If he can explain what he saw, how he understood the pattern, it might give us a chance. I closed my eyes, thought about Marcus's face when Damian mocked him, thought about how hard I'd worked to build a safe world for my son, only to have it shattered in minutes. Thought about 60,000 people who might lose their jobs because of a CEO's arrogance. I'll call you back, I said. Wait. I hung up. For 3 minutes, I stood in my kitchen, tea going cold in the microwave, the weight of an impossible choice crushing down on me. Then I walked into Marcus's room and gently touched his shoulder. Baby, I need you to wake up. Marcus didn't ask questions when I told him we were going back to Hexagon. He just nodded, grabbed his tablet and headphones, and climbed into the car with that quiet trust that always broke my heart. The drive back into the city felt surreal. It was almost midnight. The streets were empty except for late-night delivery trucks and the occasional taxi. Marcus stared out the window, his fingers tapping that same complex rhythm against his leg. 4 beats, pause, 3 beats, pause. Marcus? Yeah, Mama? The man I talked to on the phone. He said there's a problem with the company's computer network. He thinks you might be able to help. Marcus turned to look at me, not quite at my eyes, but close enough that I knew he was really listening. The vulnerability I saw? Yes. He was quiet for a long moment. Then, Mr. Cole said I was stupid. The words hit like a punch. He'd been processing it this whole time, trying to understand why an adult would be cruel to him for telling the truth. Mr. Cole was wrong, I said firmly. What he said to you, all of it, was wrong. You're not stupid, you're not dangerous, you're brilliant and kind and exactly who you're supposed to be. Then why did he say those things? How do you explain cruelty to a 9-year-old who doesn't understand it? Marcus's autism meant he took words literally, believed what people told him, trusted that the world made logical sense. Sometimes people are scared of things they don't understand, I said carefully. And when they're scared, they get mean. It's not about you, baby, it's about them. Marcus thought about this. Is Mr. Cole scared now? I think he might be. Good. Marcus turned back to the window. Maybe he'll be nicer when he's scared. From anyone else, it would have sounded vengeful. From Marcus, it was just logic. Cause and effect. If cruelty came from fear, maybe fear would teach him kindness. I didn't have the heart to tell him it didn't usually work that way. We pulled into the Hexagon parking garage at 12:23 a.m. The building looked different at night. Darker, more imposing, all its windows lit up like a ship taking on water. Which I supposed it was. Raj met us in the lobby. He was younger than I'd imagined from his voice, maybe 35, with deep circles under his eyes and coffee stains on his shirt. He looked like he hadn't slept in days. Mrs. Huang, thank you for coming. He crouched down to Marcus's level, careful not to get too close. And you must be Marcus. I'm Raj. I work with computers like you. Marcus didn't respond, but he was studying Raj carefully, cataloging him, deciding if he was safe. We're going to go up to the Security Operations Center, Raj continued, still speaking directly to Marcus, not over his head like most adults did. It's going to be loud, lots of people, lots of screens. Is that okay? Marcus looked at me. I nodded. He turned back to Raj. I have my headphones. That's good. That's really good. Raj stood, looked at me. The rest of the executive team is upstairs. Mr. Cole, he's there too. I assumed he would be. He's not happy about this, about calling you. Raj's voice was careful, neutral. But the board insisted. They override him when they have to. How bad is it? Raj's face went grim. We're losing systems every 30 minutes. Client accounts are being siphoned. Data is being encrypted with ransomware. In 5 hours, we won't be able to access our own infrastructure. The attackers will own everything and will be locked out of our own company. Can't you just shut everything down? Disconnect from the internet? We tried. They anticipated it. They've embedded themselves so deep in our systems that shutting down would trigger immediate data deletion. We'd lose everything anyway, just faster. So you need Marcus to... What exactly? Raj looked at my son, who was absorbed in his tablet, probably already thinking about the network vulnerability he'd spotted hours ago. I need him to show me what he saw, to help me understand the pattern he recognized. If we can understand how they got in, maybe we can figure out how to get them out. I pulled Raj aside, lowered my voice. My son was humiliated tonight, mocked in front of a room full of people by a man who is supposed to be a leader. Now you're asking him to save that same man's company? I know. Raj met my eyes. And if I could change what happened, I would. But right now, Marcus might be the only person on Earth who understands this attack well enough to stop it. I won't lie to you. This is asking a lot from both of you, but I'm asking anyway because I don't know what else to do. I looked at Marcus, my beautiful, brilliant, fragile boy who saw patterns in chaos and truth in complexity. If Mr. Cole says one cruel word to him, one dismissive comment, one mocking tone, we leave. Immediately. I don't care if the building is burning down. Understood. And when this is over, Marcus gets credit. Public credit. Not some footnote. Not our team solved it. Him. Raj nodded. You have my word. I didn't trust his word. I didn't trust any of them. But I trusted Marcus's gift. And I trusted that somewhere in that building there was a CEO who was about to learn the most expensive lesson of his life. We took the elevator to the 47th floor, the same floor where, 4 hours ago, my son had been called dangerous. Now he was their only hope. Karma, I was learning, had impeccable timing. The Security Operations Center looked like something out of a movie. Wall-to-wall monitors showing cascading code, network diagrams, live threat assessments in angry red numbers. At least 20 people clustered around workstations, their faces illuminated by screen glow, fingers flying across keyboards, voices tight with controlled panic. And in the center of it all, standing like a captain on a sinking ship, was Damian Cole. He looked different than he had at the party. His tie was gone, his shirt sleeves rolled up, his hair disheveled. The alcohol flush had faded, replaced by exhaustion and something that might have been fear. When he saw us walk in, his entire body went rigid. "You've got to be kidding me." Raj stepped forward. "Mr. Cole, this is—" "I know who they are." Damian's voice was ice. "I want to know why they're in my operations center during a code-red security breach." An older man in a suit, I recognized him from company newsletters as Mr. Howard, the board chairman, spoke up from his position near the main monitors. "Because we're out of options, Damian." Raj explained the situation. "If the boy saw something we missed, we need to listen." "The boy," Damian practically spat the word, "is 9 years old, autistic. He probably saw our network diagram and made a lucky guess. This is insane." Marcus's hand tightened in mine. He was hearing all of this, processing every word, every tone. The headphones helped but didn't block everything out. I felt rage building in my chest, hot and righteous. But before I could speak, a woman's voice cut through the tension. "Mr. Cole, with respect, we're not in a position to dismiss any help, regardless of where it comes from." I turned to see Claire, Damian's assistant, the one who'd sometimes nodded politely when we passed in hallways. She stood near a workstation, arms crossed, her expression professionally neutral but her eyes sharp. Damian glared at her. "Et tu, Claire?" "I'm just stating facts, sir." She didn't flinch. "We've been at this for 4 hours. We're hemorrhaging data and client trust with every minute. If there's even a chance this child can help, we'd be foolish not to try." The room went quiet. Everyone was watching, waiting to see if Damian would override them all, let his pride doom the company. He looked at Marcus, then at me, then at Raj. "Fine." The word came out like a surrender. "But if this is a waste of time—" "It won't be," Raj said quickly. He gestured to Marcus. "Come here, buddy. I want to show you something." Marcus looked at me. I squeezed his hand. "It's okay. I'll be right here." He walked over to Raj's workstation, his movements careful, deliberate. The room was overwhelming, lights, sounds, people, but he was managing, staying present. Raj pulled up a chair, adjusted the monitor so Marcus could see clearly. "Remember what you said earlier, about the Layer 3 firewall and the redundancy protocol?" Marcus nodded. "Can you show me what you meant?" Marcus stared at the screen. It was dense with code, network architecture diagrams, security logs scrolling by at impossible speed. To most people, it would have been incomprehensible. Marcus leaned forward. His fingers twitched, wanting to touch the screen, trace the patterns he saw. "There," he said softly, pointing to a section of code. "That's where they got in." Raj squinted at the screen. That's the redundancy failover for the DMZ network. It's designed to switch to backup servers if the primary goes down." "But it doesn't switch," Marcus said. His voice was getting more confident now, falling into that flat, factual tone he used when talking about special interests. "It creates a parallel pathway instead, and the parallel pathway doesn't have the same authentication requirements as the primary. So when the attackers triggered a fake server failure, the system opened the parallel pathway, and they walked through the authentication gap." Silence. Every person in that room was staring at Marcus like he'd just spoken in an alien language. Raj's fingers flew across his keyboard, pulling up deeper code. "Oh my God," he breathed. "Oh my God, he's right. The failover protocol, we designed it for speed, not security. We assumed if the primary authentication passed, the failover wouldn't need re-authentication. But if you trigger the failover artificially, you bypass authentication entirely," Claire finished, her eyes wide. "It's a ghost door." "A ghost door we built ourselves," Mr. Howard said grimly. "And our arrogance kept us from seeing it." Damian was frozen, staring at Marcus with an expression I couldn't quite read. Shock. Disbelief. Something else, something that might have been shame. Marcus continued, oblivious to the impact of his words. "And the pattern repeats every 47 minutes. The attackers are cycling through the ghost door, extracting data in bursts, then closing it before your monitoring systems can flag the anomaly. That's why you keep seeing the breach but can't isolate it." Raj was typing frantically now, pulling up logs, cross-referencing timestamps. 47 minutes. He's right. Every 47 minutes, there's a microsecond spike in our failover system. We thought it was a glitch. "It's not a glitch," Marcus said. It's a pattern. They're using your own system against you. Another analyst spoke up. If we know the pattern, we can interrupt it. Force close the ghost door. No, Marcus said immediately. If you force close it while they're mid-extraction, they'll trigger the ransomware kill switch. You have to wait until they're between cycles, then patch the authentication gap before the next cycle starts. When's the next cycle? Mr. Howard demanded. Raj checked his monitors. 11 minutes. Can we patch it in 11 minutes? No. Raj's voice was flat. The authentication code is core infrastructure. It would take at least an hour to safely modify and deploy without crashing the entire system. So we're screwed, someone muttered. Marcus tilted his head, that gesture that meant he was processing, thinking through possibilities. Not if you don't patch it. Everyone looked at him. What do you mean? Raj asked carefully. You can't patch the ghost door in time, but you can create a trapdoor instead. Marcus's fingers were moving now, that stimming behavior that meant his brain was working at full speed. The attackers are following a pattern. Patterns are predictable. If you build a fake data repository and route it through the ghost door right before the next cycle, they'll extract the fake data instead of real data. Then you can trace their extraction pathway back to their entry point and lock them out while they're distracted. Raj stared at him. That's actually brilliant. We create a honeypot, feed it to them through their own exploit, use their greed against them. Can we build it in 11 minutes? Claire asked. No, Raj said. But we can repurpose one of our testing environments. It's already isolated, already has fake data in it. We just need to route it correctly. 10 minutes now, someone called out. The room exploded into action. Analysts scrambling to keyboards, Raj barking orders, code flying across screens, and in the middle of it all, Marcus sat quietly at the workstation, watching the chaos he'd set in motion with that same calm, focused expression he always had. I wanted to run to him, pull him into my arms, protect him from this overwhelming situation. But he didn't need protection right now. For the first time in his life, Marcus was exactly where he belonged, doing exactly what he was born to do, being seen, being valued, being brilliant. And Damian Cole, standing frozen in the corner of his own operations center, watching a 9-year-old autistic boy save his billion-dollar company, was finally understanding what he'd done. 9 minutes, Raj called out. Come on, people, move! Time became elastic in that room. Seconds stretched into eternities. Minutes collapsed into heartbeats. 8 minutes. Raj's team worked like a surgical unit, each person handling a different piece of the trap. Rerouting network pathways, populating the honeypot with convincing fake data. Setting up monitoring to trace the attacker's location. Marcus watched it all, occasionally pointing out a missed connection or suggesting an optimization. Raj listened to every word like scripture. 7 minutes. Damian hadn't moved. He stood in the same spot, watching, his face unreadable. Once our eyes met across the room. I didn't look away. I wanted him to see me. To really see me for the first time. The janitor whose son he'd mocked. The woman he'd dismissed. The single mother who'd given him one more chance he didn't deserve. 6 minutes. We're not going to make it, someone muttered. Yes, we are, Raj said firmly. Marcus, check the routing one more time. Make sure the pathway looks natural enough to fool them. Marcus leaned into the screen, his eyes tracking lines of code I couldn't begin to understand. It's good, he said. They'll take it. 5 minutes. Honeypot is live, an analyst called out. Monitoring systems are armed. We're ready. 4 minutes. The room held its breath. Every eye on the main monitor, watching the network traffic, waiting for the spike that would signal the attacker's next extraction cycle. 3 minutes. Mr. Howard's phone rang. He answered, spoke in low tones, hung up. The board wants status updates every minute. Tell them we're about to find out if a 9-year-old just saved the company or if we're all unemployed by dawn, someone said. Nervous laughter rippled through the room. 2 minutes. Marcus's hand found mine. He didn't look at me, didn't say anything, just held on. Tight. He was scared, I realized, not of the situation, but of failing, of being wrong, of proving Damian right. I squeezed back. Whatever happens, I'm proud of you. 1 minute. The room went silent except for the hum of servers and the rapid-fire clicking of keyboards. Raj's eyes were locked on his screen. Come on, take the bait. 30 seconds, I found myself praying. To who or what, I didn't know, just throwing hope into the universe and begging it to stick. 10 seconds. Raj's screen flashed red. They're in! They're accessing the honeypot. Trace initiated. And everything changed. For exactly 4 seconds, we all existed in a space between disaster and salvation. Then the computers started screaming. I don't have the technical words to describe what happened next. I'm not a network engineer anymore. That life ended when my husband died and I had to choose between a career and being present for Marcus. But I can tell you what it looked like. Raj's screen exploded with data, lines of code cascading like a waterfall, IP addresses pinging across a world map, connection nodes lighting up in angry red. They're taking it, Raj shouted. They're downloading from the honeypot, 20 gigabytes, 40, 60. Are we tracing them? Mr. Howard demanded. Yes, the trace is running. Come on, stay connected. We need 30 more seconds for a full location lock. Marcus leaned closer to the screen, his eyes tracking something I couldn't see. They don't know it's fake. How can you tell? Claire asked. Their extraction speed. If they suspected a trap, they'd slow down, test the data integrity. But they're pulling at maximum bandwidth. They think they won. 20 seconds to full trace, an analyst called out. The room held its collective breath. I watched the timer count down on Raj's screen. 17, 16, 15. Wait, Marcus said suddenly. Something's wrong. Raj's head snapped toward him. What? They're splitting. The main connection is still pulling data, but a secondary connection just opened. Different signature, different behavior. Where? Raj's fingers flew across his keyboard, pulling up network topology maps. Marcus pointed. There. They're not trying to extract anymore. They're trying to leave a back door. While we're watching the honeypot, they're installing permanent access through a different pathway. Shit! Raj started typing frantically. They're smarter than we thought. The honeypot is the distraction. They're using our attention against us. Can we stop both? Mr. Howard's voice was sharp with panic. Not with our current resources. We'd have to choose, block the backdoor installation or complete the trace on the main attacker. 10 seconds to full trace, someone called out. Damian finally moved, stepping forward. What happens if we let them install the back door? They own us forever, Raj said flatly. We could patch the honeypot, secure everything else, but they'd have a permanent secret entrance. We'd never be safe. And if we stop the trace? We lose the attackers. They disappear. They'll come back another day, through another vulnerability we haven't found yet. 5 seconds. Marcus was staring at the screen with that intense focus that meant he was processing at maximum capacity. His fingers were moving in complex patterns against his leg. There's a third option, he said quietly. Everyone turned to look at him. What? Raj asked. Reverse the trap. Let them install the back door, but modify the code they're installing so it reports back to you instead of them. Turn their weapon into your surveillance system. Silence. Then Claire laughed, a short, shocked sound. That's insane. That's absolutely insane. Can we even do that? 3 seconds. I can do it, Marcus said. He wasn't boasting, just stating fact. I can see their installation pattern, I can write the modification, but someone else has to deploy it. I don't have access. Raj looked at Damian. Sir? For the first time since we'd arrived, Damian looked directly at Marcus, really looked at him. Not through him, not past him, but at him. You're sure? He asked. Marcus met his eyes, held them, something I'd never seen him do with a stranger. Yes. 1 second. Do it, Damian said. What happened next happened so fast that I couldn't track all the pieces. Marcus started speaking, not his usual quiet voice, but clear, rapid, technical language flowing from him like music. Raj translated Marcus's instructions into commands, his fingers flying across the keyboard. Other analysts jumped in, modifying code, deploying patches, all of them moving in synchronized chaos. Backdoor installation detected, someone called out. They're at 60%. We're almost there, Raj said through gritted teeth. Marcus, I need the final modification. 70%. Marcus's voice never wavered. Change line 447. Substitute their encryption key with a duplicated version that mirrors to your secondary server. They'll think they're securing the back door, but you'll have access too. 80%. Got it. Deploying. Now! The screens flickered. For one terrifying heartbeat, I thought we'd lost, that everything had crashed. Then Raj started laughing. It wasn't a happy laugh. It was the kind of laugh that comes from surviving something you were certain would kill you. Relief mixed with disbelief, mixed with pure adrenaline. It worked! He spun around in his chair. The back door is installed and reporting to us. We have full visibility into their system. We can see them now. The room erupted in cheers. People were hugging, high-fiving, some were crying. Mr. Howard pulled out his phone. I'm calling the board and the FBI. We have everything we need to identify and prosecute these attackers. Claire walked over to Marcus, crouched down to his level. You just saved this company, she said simply. You know that, right? Marcus looked uncomfortable with the attention, but he nodded. I expected him to retreat, to shut down from the overwhelming emotion in the room. Instead, he turned to Damian Cole. Mr. Cole? Damian walked over slowly, like a man approaching something sacred and fragile. Yes? Marcus's voice was quiet but clear. The network still has other vulnerabilities. The ghost door wasn't the only one. There are at least 4 more I saw. Do you want me to show you? And just like that, my 9-year-old son, who'd been called stupid and dangerous 4 hours ago, became the most valuable person in that building. Damian Cole dropped to one knee, and everything changed. I need you to understand something about autistic people. They feel everything, every emotion, every social slight, every unkind word. The difference is they don't always show it the way neurotypical people expect. They don't cry on cue. They don't perform forgiveness for your comfort. When Damian Cole dropped to one knee in front of my son, this powerful, arrogant man literally lowering himself, Marcus didn't smile or soften or immediately accept the gesture. He just waited. Damian cleared his throat. The room had gone quiet again, everyone watching, sensing that something important was happening. Marcus, Damian began, and his voice cracked on the name. I owe you an apology. Marcus tilted his head slightly, processing. Earlier tonight, I said terrible things to you. I called you. I implied you were... He stopped, seemed to gather himself. I mocked you. I dismissed you. I treated you like you didn't matter. And I was wrong. Completely, unforgivably wrong. Marcus didn't respond, just kept that steady, evaluating gaze on Damian's face. Damian continued, and I could see it was costing him something to do this, not just pride, but a genuine reckoning with his own cruelty. You saw something that our entire security team missed. You understood our system better than people with decades of experience. And when I had the chance to listen to you, I chose mockery instead. That's on me. That's my failure, not yours. Why did you do it? Marcus asked. The question hung in the air, simple, direct, devastating. Damian exhaled slowly. Honestly, I think I was scared. You were different from what I understood, and instead of admitting I didn't know how to interact with you, I lashed out. I made you the problem so I didn't have to face my own ignorance. That's not logical, Marcus said. Being scared doesn't make cruelty acceptable. You're absolutely right. It doesn't. And calling me dangerous was incorrect. I'm not dangerous. I'm autistic. Those are different things. Damian's eyes were wet now. He nodded. I know. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Marcus was quiet for a long moment. The entire room waited. Then, apology accepted. Just like that. No drama, no strings. Marcus had evaluated the apology, found it sincere, and moved on. But I wasn't done. I stepped forward and Damian looked up at me, still on his knee. You apologized to my son, I said quietly. That's good, that's important, but you also humiliated me. You dismissed me, you threatened my job. You made me feel like I was less than human for loving and protecting my child. Damian stood slowly, and to his credit, he didn't look away. You're right, Mrs. Huang. Diane. He took a breath. I treated you abhorrently. I saw your uniform instead of your humanity. I saw your son's disability instead of his gifts. I made assumptions based on prejudice and arrogance, and I'm ashamed of that. I'm ashamed of who I was tonight, who I've probably been for a long time. I wanted to stay angry, to make him suffer the way he'd made us suffer. But I was so tired of fighting, tired of defending Marcus's right to exist in the world. Do better, I said simply. Not just with us, with everyone. The janitors and security guards and people you pass without seeing. Do better. I will. He meant it. I could see it in his face. I swear to you, I will. Mr. Howard stepped forward. Damian's personal growth aside, we need to address the practical matters. Mrs. Huang, your son just saved this company from catastrophic failure. That deserves more than an apology. It deserves compensation. I don't want your money, I said immediately. Mr. Howard smiled. What do you want? I looked at Marcus, who was already distracted by the network diagrams on Raj's screen, his mind moving to the next problem, the next pattern. What did I want? I wanted a world where my son could exist without being mocked, where his differences were celebrated instead of feared, where brilliance was recognized regardless of how it presented itself. A job, I said. Not for me, for Marcus. Damian blinked. He's 9 years old. I know, so make it official. A junior consultant position. Part-time, flexible hours, appropriate for a child. He comes in once a week, reviews your security systems, identifies vulnerabilities. You pay him fairly, and you treat him with respect. And when he's older, if he wants to continue, you give him a full position, with benefits, with accommodations, with the understanding that his autism is part of what makes him brilliant, not something to be fixed. Raj laughed. That's the best consulting offer I've ever heard. Mr. Howard extended his hand. Done. With one addition, we also want to hire you back. I stared at him. What? Claire did some checking after Raj called you. Your employment file shows you have a master's degree in computer science from Stanford. You worked for 3 years as a software engineer before personal circumstances changed your career path. Is that correct? My throat went tight. Yes. Then we're idiots for having you push a mop. We'd like to offer you a position in our security division, senior engineer level. You'd work with Raj, with Marcus, rebuilding our infrastructure to be smarter and more resilient. What do you say? I couldn't breathe. 3 years. 3 years of scrubbing toilets and emptying trash and being invisible because I needed flexible hours and didn't have the energy to rebuild my career while raising Marcus alone. And now, I need accommodations too, I heard myself saying. For Marcus's care, flexible scheduling, the ability to leave if he has an emergency, I won't compromise on that. Agreed, Mr. Howard said immediately. This company is learning tonight that diverse perspectives and experiences make us stronger. We want you both. However that works best for your family. I looked at Damian. He was watching me with an expression I couldn't quite read. Not pity, something else. Maybe respect. I meant what I said, he told me. I want to do better. If you're willing to give me the chance to prove that, I'd be honored to work with you, both of you. Marcus tugged on my sleeve. Mama? Can I tell them about the other vulnerabilities now? There's one in the client authentication system that's really interesting. I laughed, a real laugh that cracked something open inside my chest. Yes, baby, you can tell them. For the next 2 hours, Marcus walked the security team through every vulnerability he'd spotted. Not just the ghost door, but 4 additional weaknesses in the system architecture that no one had identified. He explained them with patience and clarity, answering questions, drawing diagrams on the whiteboard with an engineer's precision. And everyone listened. Not because they had to, not because they were being polite, but because Marcus was brilliant, and they were finally smart enough to recognize it. At 3:30 a.m., Raj declared that the immediate crisis was over. The attackers had been traced to a server farm in Eastern Europe. The FBI was coordinating with international authorities. All vulnerabilities Marcus had identified were being patched. Hexagon Technologies would survive. Claire ordered pizza. Someone found juice boxes for Marcus. The crisis room slowly transformed into something almost celebratory. Exhausted people eating cheap food and sharing war stories. The kind of bonding that happens when you survive something together. Marcus sat at Raj's desk, eating pepperoni pizza and scrolling through security logs, perfectly content. Damian approached me where I stood by the windows, looking out at the city starting to wake up. I don't expect you to forgive me, he said quietly. Not quickly, maybe not ever, but I meant what I said. I'm going to do better. Be better. Prove it, I said. Not with words, with actions, with policies, with how you treat every person who works for you, regardless of their title or their paycheck. I will. He paused. Can I ask you something? What? Why did you come back? After what I did, you could have stayed home, let us fail. It would have been justified. I thought about that, about the choice I'd made at midnight in my kitchen. Because 60,000 people work for this company. They didn't mock my son. They have families and mortgages and dreams. And because I glanced at Marcus, because I wanted him to see that his gifts matter, that the world needs what he has to offer, even when it doesn't know it yet. Damian followed my gaze. He's remarkable. Yes, he is. And tomorrow, when the sun comes up and reality sets in, I need you to remember that. Remember that autistic people aren't projects to fix or problems to solve. They're human beings with extraordinary potential, and the only thing standing in their way is people like you deciding they're not worth listening to. I'll remember. He meant it. Thank you, Diane, for giving me a chance I didn't deserve. I didn't respond, just turned back to the window, watching dawn break over the city. Behind me, I heard Marcus laugh at something Raj said. A real laugh, unself-conscious and joyful. And I thought, maybe the world can change. Maybe one person learning to do better creates ripples that spread further than we know. Maybe this night, this terrible, beautiful, impossible night, was the beginning of something new, not just for Marcus, for all of us. We left Hexagon Technologies at 6:47 a.m., just as the sun was fully up and the morning shift was arriving. Marcus fell asleep in the car before we even left the parking garage, his head against the window, his headphones askew, his tablet clutched in his lap. He'd been awake for 24 hours straight, and the adrenaline crash hit him all at once. I drove home through streets that looked the same, but felt different. Like the world had shifted slightly on its axis while we weren't looking. When I carried Marcus up to our apartment, still small, still shabby, but somehow less oppressive than it had felt yesterday, I found 3 emails on my phone. The first was from HR, confirming my new position, senior security engineer, salary that made my eyes water, start date in 2 weeks after I gave notice at the janitorial company. The second was from Damian's assistant, Claire, with a formal contract for Marcus, junior security consultant, flexible hours, compensation that would fund his college education 3 times over. The third was from Damian himself. No subject line, just 5 words. Thank you for saving us. I didn't respond. Not yet. Let him sit with gratitude for a while. Let him understand that forgiveness was earned, not given. I tucked Marcus into bed, kissed his forehead, and finally let myself cry. Not sad tears, not angry tears. Something else. Relief, maybe, or validation. Or just the sheer, overwhelming emotion of watching your child be seen. My phone rang at 9 a.m. I'd been asleep for maybe 40 minutes. It was Raj. "I'm sorry to wake you," he said. "But you should know, Damian just called an emergency all-hands meeting. He's telling the entire company what happened, giving Marcus full credit, public recognition, like you asked. Is that unusual? For Damian Cole to admit he was wrong in front of 8,000 employees? Unprecedented. I think you actually changed him. Or Marcus did." "Fair," Raj paused. "For what it's worth, I'm glad you came back, both of you. This company is going to be better because of it." It better be. We didn't go through all that for nothing. After I hung up, I checked social media. The story was already spreading. That Hexagon hero was trending on Twitter. News outlets were picking it up. 9-year-old autistic boy saves billion-dollar company from cyber attack. Not boy with autism. Not despite his disability. Autistic boy. Like it was part of his identity, not separate from his achievement. I thought about calling Marcus's school. Thought about all the teachers who'd suggested he'd be better off in a special program. All the parents who'd looked at him with pity. Then I decided, let them read the news. Let them see what they'd missed. Marcus slept until 3 p.m. When he finally shuffled out of his room, rumpled and confused, I had hot chocolate waiting. "Did we dream that?" he asked, climbing into my lap even though he was getting too big for it. "No, baby, that was real." Mr. Cole apologized. He did. And they want me to come back and help them. They do. Marcus was quiet for a moment, processing. Then, Mama, do you think people will still be mean to me? The question broke my heart, because the answer was yes. The world doesn't change overnight. Marcus would still face cruelty and misunderstanding and people who couldn't see past their own limitations. But maybe, he'd also face more people like Raj and Claire and even Damien, who were learning to do better. Some people will, I said honestly, but not as many. And the ones who are? They're the ones with the problem, not you. Always remember that. He nodded against my shoulder. I liked helping. I liked when they listened to me. I know, and they're going to keep listening. You're going to change so many things, Marcus. You already have. We sat there for a long time, drinking hot chocolate, watching the sun move across our living room floor. Outside, the world kept turning. Inside, everything was different. That was 6 months ago. Since then, Marcus has identified 47 additional vulnerabilities across Hexagon systems. He consults one afternoon a week, working with Raj and a team that treats him like the genius he is. The company implemented a neurodiversity hiring initiative. 23 autistic employees now work in various departments, with accommodations and support that actually work. Damian Cole personally funded scholarships for students with developmental disabilities pursuing STEM careers. And me? I'm rebuilding security infrastructure from the ground up, making sure that the next crisis doesn't happen because we're too arrogant to see our own blind spots. But the real story? The one that matters? It's about what happened when karma moved, when a billionaire CEO learned that the person he dismissed was the person he needed most. When a 9-year-old boy showed the world that different isn't less. It's just different. When a janitor became an engineer again, not in spite of her son, but because of him. Some people say we got lucky that night. I say we got exactly what we deserved. Damien got humility, Marcus got recognition, and I got proof that the universe does, eventually, balance the scales. You just have to be patient enough to watch it happen. The Silicon Valley Tech Conference happens every year in October. It's the kind of event where billion-dollar deals get made in hallway conversations, where CEOs unveil the next big thing, where the future of technology gets written in real time. This year, Hexagon Technologies had the keynote slot, and Damian Cole did something no one expected. He asked Marcus to present with him. I stood in the wings of the massive auditorium, 3,000 seats, everyone filled, watching my son stand at center stage next to a man who, 6 months ago, had called him dangerous. Marcus wore a button-down shirt I'd ironed 3 times to make sure it was perfect. His blue headphones hung around his neck like a talisman. In his hands, he held the clicker for the presentation slides, and he clicked it with the same careful precision he applied to everything. Damien stood beside him, but he wasn't dominating the space. Wasn't talking over Marcus or explaining for him. He was just there, supportive, present. So that's how we restructured our entire security infrastructure, Marcus said to the crowd, his voice amplified through the auditorium. By assuming that we didn't know everything. By building systems that ask questions instead of making assumptions. By remembering that vulnerabilities aren't failures. They're just problems waiting to be solved. Applause rippled through the audience. Damien stepped forward. 6 months ago, I almost destroyed my company because of arrogance. Because I believed that intelligence looked a certain way, spoke a certain way, presented itself in ways I recognized and understood. I was wrong, catastrophically wrong, he gestured to Marcus. This young man taught me something that no business school ever did. That genius doesn't come in one package. That the person you dismiss might be the person who saves you. That listening, really listening, is the most important skill a leader can have. Marcus looked uncomfortable with the attention, his fingers tapping that familiar rhythm against his leg. But he didn't shut down, didn't retreat. He stood there, present and real, letting the world see him. We've implemented a neurodiversity initiative at Hexagon, Damian continued. Not because it's good PR, though it is. Not because it's trendy, though it might be, but because we're smarter as a company when we have diverse minds solving problems. Autistic employees see patterns we miss, they ask questions we don't think to ask, they make us better. He looked at Marcus. Marcus makes us better, every single day. The applause this time was thunderous. After the presentation, as we walked through the convention center, people stopped Marcus constantly. CEOs asking for his card, journalists wanting interviews. Other parents of autistic children just wanting to shake his hand, to tell him he gave them hope. Marcus handled it with grace, though I could see the exhaustion building. Too many people, too much noise, too much sensation. Finally, I stepped in. That's enough for today. He needs a break. To my surprise, people respected that, backed off, gave him space. We found a quiet corner near the food court. I bought Marcus his favorite snack, apple slices with peanut butter, and we sat together while he decompressed. That was overwhelming, he said softly. I know. You did amazing. People kept touching me. His voice was small. I don't like when people touch me without asking. I'll make sure that doesn't happen again. We can set boundaries, clear rules. Marcus nodded, eating his apple slices methodically. One bite, chew exactly 12 times, swallow. His routine, his comfort. Mama? Yeah, baby? Do you think Dad would be proud? The question hit me like a physical blow. Marcus rarely talked about his father. The grief was too big, too confusing for his 9-year-old brain to process in conventional ways. But I knew he thought about him, wondered, missed him in his own way. Your dad, I said carefully, would be so proud he'd probably cry. You know how he used to cry at your school plays even when you just stood in the back and didn't say any lines? Marcus smiled. He was embarrassing. He was. But he loved you so much. And he would have loved seeing you up on that stage today, teaching people, being brilliant, being you. I miss him. Me too, baby. Me too. We sat in comfortable silence for a while, watching conference attendees rush past with their lanyards and laptops and important conversations. Then Marcus said something that made me understand how much he'd grown. I'm glad Mr. Cole was mean to me. I blinked. What? If he hadn't been mean, we wouldn't have needed to come back that night. And then I wouldn't have helped with the attack. And then he wouldn't have learned to be better, and all those autistic people wouldn't have jobs now. Marcus tilted his head, thinking it through with his unique logic. So his meanness created good things. It's like a vulnerability in a system. It was bad, but it showed where things needed to be fixed. I stared at my son, this wise old soul in a 9-year-old body. That's one way to look at it. Is it the right way? I don't know if there's a right way, but it's a compassionate way, and that matters. Marcus went back to his apple slices, satisfied with that answer. And I thought, maybe he's right. Maybe all of it, the humiliation, the crisis, the impossible night. Maybe it was necessary. Not because suffering builds character or any of that toxic positivity nonsense, but because sometimes the universe needs to break something before it can rebuild it better. Damian Cole needed to be broken. His arrogance, his cruelty, his refusal to see people as fully human, it all needed to shatter. And Marcus, my beautiful boy, was the hammer that did it. Not through violence or revenge, just through being exactly who he was. Through showing the world that brilliance comes in unexpected forms, that the people we dismiss are often the people we need most. That night, back in our hotel room, I got a text from Damian. Thank you for sharing him with the world today. He's changing everything. I typed back, he's been changing everything his whole life. You're just finally paying attention. 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. You're right. I'm sorry it took me so long. I didn't respond. Just set my phone down and watched Marcus sleep, his headphones still around his neck, a slight smile on his face. Tomorrow, we'd fly home. Back to our regular life that wasn't quite regular anymore. Back to school and work and the beautiful, complicated routine of raising an extraordinary child. But tonight, I let myself sit in this moment. In the proof that people can change, that cruelty doesn't have to be the end of the story, that my son, my brilliant, autistic, pattern-seeing, world-changing son, was exactly who he was supposed to be, and the world was finally catching up. The email came 3 weeks after the conference. Subject line, "You changed my life." I almost deleted it, thinking it was spam, but something made me click. Dear Mrs. Huang, my name is Sarah Park. I'm a mother of a 7-year-old autistic son named Jamie. 2 weeks ago, I was in a parent-teacher conference where my son's teacher suggested that Jamie would never be able to participate in normal classroom activities, that I should consider alternative educational paths, that his stimming and nonverbal communication made him disruptive. I left that meeting feeling hopeless, like I'd failed my son, like the world would never have space for him. That night, I saw the video of Marcus presenting at the Silicon Valley Tech Conference. I watched it 3 times, then I showed it to Jamie's teacher, then to the principal, then to every parent in our school district who would listen. Yesterday, Jamie's school agreed to implement sensory-friendly modifications to their classrooms. They're training teachers on neurodiversity. They're creating spaces where kids like Jamie can exist without being made to feel broken. None of that would have happened without Marcus, without you showing the world what autistic excellence looks like. Thank you. From the bottom of my heart, thank you. I cried reading that email, then I showed it to Marcus. Mama, why are you crying? Because you helped someone you've never met. Because telling your story made the world better for another little boy. Marcus thought about that. Can I email her back? Of course. He wrote, Dear Jamie, I'm Marcus. I'm autistic too. Sometimes school is hard and people don't understand. But you're not broken. Your brain just works different, and different is good. Don't let anyone make you feel small. You're going to do amazing things. Marcus's 3 sentences. But I knew they'd mean everything to that little boy and his mother. That was the first email. There were hundreds more. Teachers asking for advice on supporting autistic students. Companies wanting to create neurodiversity hiring programs. Parents sharing their own stories, their own struggles, their own hopes. Each one a ripple spreading outward from that one night 6 months ago. One Saturday morning, Marcus and I went to his favorite bookstore, the one with the sci-fi section that let him sit on the floor and read for hours without buying anything. A woman approached us in the computer programming aisle, mid-30s, professional clothes, kind eyes. Excuse me, are you Marcus Huang? Marcus looked at me. I nodded. Safe. Yes, he said. I'm Dr. Lisa Washington. I'm a computer science professor at Berkeley. I wanted to thank you. For what? For making it possible for me to be open about my own autism. She smiled, and I could see the emotion behind it. I was diagnosed at 32, after a lifetime of thinking I was just weird or difficult. I hid it in my career because I was terrified of discrimination. But after seeing how you presented at that conference, how you owned your identity, I decided to stop hiding. She pulled out a small notebook, showed us a page. I wrote a paper about neurodiversity in STEM education. It's been accepted by 3 major journals. I'm training other professors on how to support autistic students. And I'm doing it openly, proudly, because you showed me I could. Marcus didn't fully understand the impact of what she was saying, but he understood enough. I'm glad I helped, he said simply. After she left, I squeezed Marcus's hand. Do you understand what's happening, baby? What? You're not just helping fix computer problems, you're helping fix how people think. How they see people like you. You're changing the world. Marcus considered this. Is the world broken? Parts of it, the parts that say some people matter less than others, the parts that value sameness over diversity, those parts are broken. Can we fix it? We're trying, one person at a time. That evening, I got a call from Mr. Howard, Hexagon's board chairman. Diane, I wanted to give you a heads up. We're announcing a new initiative next week. What kind of initiative? The Marcus Huang Neurodiversity Scholarship Fund. Full ride scholarships for autistic students pursuing STEM degrees. Damian's personally funding it, $10 million to start. I was speechless. We're also creating the Marcus Huang Award for Innovation and Accessibility. Annual recognition for companies and individuals making technology more inclusive. We want Marcus to present it each year, if he's comfortable with that. Why are you doing this? Because Marcus is right. The world is broken in a lot of ways. But it doesn't have to stay broken. We have the resources and the platform to make change. We'd be fools not to use it. After I hung up, I sat with the weight of it. $10 million, scholarships, awards, systemic change. All because my son wandered into a hallway and saw what no one else could see. all because a CEO's cruelty backfired so spectacularly that it forced him to confront his own humanity, all because karma doesn't always strike fast, but when it does, it strikes with precision. Marcus came out of his room, tablet in hand. "Mama, I found another vulnerability in the banking software we use. Should I tell someone?" I laughed, a real, full laugh. "Yes, baby. You should definitely tell someone." Because that's what Marcus does. He sees problems, he solves them, he makes the world safer, smarter, better. And now, finally, the world was listening. 3 months after the scholarship announcement, Damian asked to meet me for coffee, not at Hexagon, at a small cafe near Marcus's school, neutral territory. I almost said no. We had a professional relationship now, cordial, functional, successful. I wasn't sure I wanted to dig deeper than that. But something in his voice on the phone made me agree. He was already there when I arrived, sitting at a corner table, 2 coffees waiting. He stood when he saw me, a gesture that still felt strange from a man who'd once threatened to have me fired. "Thank you for coming," he said. "You said it was important." "It is, to me at least." He waited until I sat, then slid a folder across the table. "I wanted to show you something." I opened it. Inside were pages, dozens of them, filled with handwritten notes, lists, observations, plans. "What is this?" "My reckoning." Damian's voice was quiet. After that night, after Marcus saved the company, I couldn't stop thinking about all the other people I'd dismissed over the years. All the times I'd judged someone based on appearance or title or how they presented themselves. So I started writing them down, documenting my failures, not to punish myself, but to understand the pattern. I scanned the pages, names I didn't recognize, incidents described in painful detail, apologies he'd made or still needed to make. "This is page 47, he said. "I'm still going, still finding people I need to make amends to, still discovering ways I was blind." "Why are you showing me this?" "Because I need you to know that the changes I'm making aren't performative, aren't for publicity or to assuage guilt, though God knows I have plenty of that. I'm trying to actually become a different person, a better person. And I'm terrified I'm failing." I looked at him, really looked at him, for the first time in months. He looked older, tired, but also more real, less polished, more human. "What do you want from me, Damian?" "Honesty. Tell me if I'm doing enough. Tell me if the Neurodiversity Initiative is actually helping, or if it's just corporate theater. Tell me if I'm still missing things, still being blind, because I trust you to tell me the truth, even when it's hard to hear, especially when it's hard to hear." I closed the folder, pushed it back across the table. "You want honesty? Fine. Here it is. You're doing better. The initiative is real. The scholarships matter. The culture at Hexagon is changing. But you don't get a medal for not being cruel anymore. You don't get credit for doing what you should have been doing all along." He nodded slowly. "I know. And the real test isn't how you treat Marcus now, when everyone's watching, when he's proven his value in ways you can't ignore. The real test is how you treat the next person who doesn't fit your expectations, the next employee who presents differently, thinks differently, exists differently, because that's when your instinct will be to dismiss them, and that's when you'll have to choose differently." "You're right. I know I'm right." I softened slightly. "But for what it's worth, the fact that you're trying matters. The fact that you're doing the work, real, uncomfortable work, that matters too. Most people in your position would have made a donation and called it growth. You're actually changing. That's rare." Damian was quiet for a moment, staring into his coffee. "Marcus asked me something last week," he finally said. "What?" "He asked if I was his friend now." Damian's voice cracked. "And I didn't know how to answer. Because friendship implies equality, mutual respect, genuine affection, and I don't know if I've earned that, if I ever could." "What did you tell him?" "I told him I was trying to be worthy of his friendship. That friendship is something you build, not something you declare, and that I hoped, someday, he'd think I'd done enough to deserve it." "What did he say?" Damian smiled, a real smile, sad and hopeful at once. He said, "Okay, keep trying. Then he went back to explaining quantum computing to me like I was 5 years old. I laughed despite myself. That sounds like Marcus. He's remarkable, Diane. Truly. And not just because of his intelligence, because of his honesty, his lack of pretense, his ability to see the world clearly and tell the truth about what he sees. He makes me want to be better every single day. Then be better, I said simply. Keep trying, keep failing, keep learning. That's all any of us can do. We finished our coffee in comfortable silence. As I stood to leave, Damian said one more thing. Thank you. For giving me a second chance I didn't deserve. For trusting me with Marcus. For believing that people can change. Don't thank me yet, I said. Yeah, keep earning it. And he has, every day. In ways big and small. In policies and culture shifts and individual moments of choosing empathy over ego. Is he perfect? No. Does he still mess up? Yes. But he's trying. Really trying. And sometimes, that's enough. Marcus turned 10 on a Saturday in April. We'd planned a small party, just family and a few kids from his school who actually understood him. No overwhelming crowds, no sensory nightmares. Just cake and video games and the kind of quiet celebration that worked for our family. But at 2 p.m., an unexpected guest showed up at our door. Damian Cole, in jeans and a t-shirt I'd never imagined he owned, holding a wrapped present and looking nervous. I'm sorry for just showing up, he said. I know I should have asked first, but I wanted to give Marcus something. And I didn't want to do it at work where it might feel like a business transaction. Marcus appeared behind me, curious. Mr. Cole? Happy birthday, Marcus! Damian held out the present. This is for you. If you don't like it, that's totally okay. I won't be offended. Marcus took the package carefully and unwrapped it with his methodical precision, removing the tape slowly, folding the paper, not tearing anything. Inside was a book. Worn, obviously old, the cover faded. Introduction to Computer Networks, Marcus read aloud. Then he looked up, confused. I already have this book. I know, Damian said softly. This was my copy. From when I was first learning to code, back when I was 15 and thought I knew everything. My dad gave it to me, said that understanding networks was understanding how the world connects, how information flows, how people communicate across distance and difference. He crouched down to Marcus's level. You already know more about networks than I probably ever will. But I wanted you to have this because that book changed my life. It made me curious, made me want to build things, and I thought maybe, since you changed my life, it was only fair. Marcus opened the book carefully. On the inside cover, in faded ink, Damian, may you build bridges, not walls. Dad. Below it, in fresh ink, Marcus, thank you for showing me what I was too blind to see. You changed everything. Damian. Marcus read both inscriptions twice, processing, understanding. Then he looked up at Damian and said the most Marcus thing possible. Thank you. This is a good present. Do you want to play Minecraft? Damian's eyes went wet. I would love to play Minecraft. So that's how we spent Marcus's 10th birthday. My son and the CEO he'd once saved, building elaborate structures in a virtual world, Marcus patiently explaining redstone circuits while Damian tried not to fall off mountains. Other kids joined in. Raj showed up with his daughter. Claire came with her nephew. Even Mr. Howard stopped by, bringing a chess set because he'd heard Marcus was learning. It wasn't the party I'd planned. It was better. It was a community, built around a child who'd been called dangerous a year ago, built by people who'd learned to see differently. As the sun set and the party wound down, I found Damian on our small balcony, looking out at the city. Thank you for letting me come, he said. Marcus wanted you here. That's what mattered. Still, I know it's complicated. I know I'm the villain in your story, even if I'm trying to write a different ending. I leaned against the railing beside him. You're not the villain anymore, Damian. You're just a person who made mistakes and is trying to fix them. That's most of us, honestly. How do you do it? He asked suddenly. How do you stay patient with him, with the world, with everything? How do you not just rage at how hard it all is? Who says I don't? I smiled. I rage plenty, usually in my car or my shower or at 2 a.m. when I can't sleep because I'm worried about what happens to Marcus when I'm gone. But then morning comes, and he's still my son, and the world still needs changing, so I get up and keep going. That's remarkably resilient. That's motherhood, especially motherhood of a child who doesn't fit the mold. You don't get to fall apart because your kid needs you to hold the world together for them until they're strong enough to do it themselves. Damian was quiet for a long moment. I never apologized to you. Not really. I apologized for that night, but not for everything that led to it. Not for building a company culture where people like Marcus were overlooked, where people like you had to hide their talents to pay the bills. I'm sorry for that. For all of it. I know you are. Does that make it better? A little. But you know what makes it better more? The 23 autistic employees working at Hexagon now. The scholarship fund that sent 7 kids to college. The consulting Marcus does that makes him feel valued and brilliant. The fact that my son has a community now instead of just me fighting the world alone. That makes it better. Then I'll keep doing that. Keep building that. Inside, I could hear Marcus laughing at something Raj said. A pure, unself-conscious sound that I'd protect with my life. He's going to change the world, you know, Damian said. Marcus, he's already started, but he's going to do things we can't even imagine yet. I know. And when he does, I want to make sure the world is ready for him, that he doesn't have to fight the way you did, the way he did that night. That's a good goal. Will you help me? Help me build a company, a world, where kids like Marcus don't have to prove their worth before they're treated with dignity? I looked at him, this flawed, learning, trying man who a year ago had been my worst nightmare and was now asking to be part of the solution. Yes, I said, we'll help. But you have to promise me something. Anything. When Marcus is 15 and knows everything and is insufferably brilliant and starts pointing out all the ways you're still messing up, you listen to him, even when it's hard, especially when it's hard. Damian laughed. Deal. We shook on it. Inside, the party continued. Marcus's friends were now building a massive collaborative structure in Minecraft, each contributing their unique vision, learning to communicate across differences, kind of like the world we were trying to build, one block at a time. 6 years later, Marcus turned 16. By then, he was a legend in cybersecurity circles, the teenager who'd saved $1 billion company at 9, the consultant who'd identified vulnerabilities in 17 major corporations, the advocate who testified before Congress about neurodiversity in technology. He'd done a TED Talk that had 15 million views, written a book about pattern recognition that became required reading at MIT, started a nonprofit connecting autistic youth with STEM mentorship. But ask Marcus what he's most proud of, and he'll tell you about the Hexagon Neurodiversity Institute. It's a research and training center built in partnership between Hexagon Technologies and UC Berkeley. They study how autistic minds process information, develop better accommodation frameworks, and train companies on neurodiversity hiring. Marcus interns there every summer. His office is next to Dr. Lisa Washington's, the professor who thanked him in the bookstore all those years ago. Last week, I sat in on one of his presentations to a room full of HR professionals and executives. He's taller now, almost eye level with me. His voice has deepened. He still wears those blue headphones, though they're held together with duct tape because he refuses to replace them. The question isn't whether autistic people can contribute to your company, he told the audience. The question is whether your company is structured to receive that contribution. Because we're here. We've always been here. You just haven't been paying attention. Someone raised their hand. What would you say to companies that worry about the costs of accommodation? Marcus didn't hesitate. I'd say that ignoring us is more expensive. When you dismiss autistic employees, you lose pattern recognition that could prevent breaches. You lose detail orientation that catches errors. You lose innovative thinking that solves problems you didn't know you had. The cost of accommodation is nothing compared to the cost of exclusion. Applause filled the room. Afterward, a young woman approached him, maybe 19, wearing a college sweatshirt, nervous energy radiating off her. Mr. Huang, I'm Emily. I'm autistic. And I just wanted to say, you're the reason I decided to study computer science. Everyone told me I couldn't, that I'd struggle, that I should choose something easier. But I saw your TED Talk, and I thought, if he can do it, maybe I can too. Marcus's face softened. He still struggles with eye contact, but he looked at her as directly as he could manage. You can do it, he said simply. And if anyone tells you otherwise, they're wrong. Not you. Them. I watched this exchange from across the room, my heart full. This is what we fought for, Not just Marcus's success, but the path he's cleared for others, the doors he's opened, the minds he's changed. Damian stood beside me. He's graying now, softer around the edges, humbler in ways that matter. "Do you remember when I called him dangerous?" he asked quietly. "Every day." "I was right, you know, just not in the way I meant." He smiled. "He is dangerous. To ignorance, to discrimination, to every system that tries to make people fit into boxes they don't belong in. He's dangerous to all of it." "Good," I said. "The world needs dangerous people like Marcus." "It does, and thanks to you, it has him." I didn't correct him, didn't say it was Marcus's own strength that brought him here, his own brilliance that opened doors. Because the truth is, it was both. Marcus's gifts, my protection, Damian's transformation, Raj's support, Claire's advocacy, Dr. Washington's example, all of us building something together, all of us dangerous in our own ways, all of us changing the world. People ask me sometimes if I forgive Damian Cole for what he did that night. It's a complicated question. Do I forgive him? Yes, because holding on to anger would only hurt me and Marcus, and we've worked too hard to let bitterness poison what we've built. But do I forget? Never. Because forgetting would mean forgetting the lesson, forgetting how close we came to walking away, forgetting how many families don't get the vindication we got. The truth is, most autistic kids won't save a billion-dollar company. Most won't get TED Talks or keynote speeches or scholarship funds in their name. Most will just be kids trying to exist in a world that doesn't understand them. And they deserve dignity too, not because they're useful or valuable in some measurable way, but because they're human. That's what I hope people take from our story. Not that autistic people can be exceptional, though they can be, but that they don't have to be exceptional to deserve respect. Marcus shouldn't have had to save a company to be treated with kindness. He should have been treated with kindness just because he was a child standing in a hallway, noticing patterns, being himself. So yes, this is a story about karma. About a cruel CEO getting exactly what he deserved. About instant justice that felt satisfying and right. But it's also a story about what should have never happened in the first place. About a world that needs to change not because it's profitable, but because it's right. My son is 16 now. He's brilliant and kind and funny and still doesn't understand why people lie or why small talk exists or why anyone would watch reality TV. He's exactly who he was at 9, just bigger, more confident, more sure of his place in the world. And every day, I'm grateful that we survived that night, that we came back, that karma moved with such precision. But I'm even more grateful for every day after, for the community we built, the doors we opened, the minds we changed, for the world Marcus is creating, one where difference isn't dangerous, it's just different. And different, as my son taught a room full of powerful people one desperate night. Different is beautiful, different is necessary, different is exactly what the world needs. Thank you for listening to our story. Now go out there and listen to someone else's. Really listen. You never know what patterns you might see. This story is dedicated to every autistic child who's been dismissed, underestimated, or made to feel less than. You are not broken. You are not too much. You are exactly enough. And the world is better because you're in it. 1 in 36 children are diagnosed with autism. Most will never get a viral redemption story, but every single one deserves dignity, accommodation, and respect. If this story touched you, please share it. Not for views, not for engagement, but because somewhere there's a parent fighting for their child. And they need to know they're not alone.